Hello and welcome. I'm John O'Hayes and you're watching W News, broadcasting live from the Arabiya studios. These are our top stories today. Trump heads to Scotland for golf, politics and a high-stakes meeting with the UK's Keir Starmer amid growing scrutiny over his Epstein ties. Plus, France plans to recognise a Palestinian state, sparks fierce backlash from Israel and the US amid Gaza's worsening humanitarian crisis. And Microsoft scrambles to fix a major SharePoint flaw after hackers breached US agencies and hundreds of global networks. Donald Trump has landed in Scotland for a weekend of golf and diplomacy, but it won't be all tea times and trade talks. The President is set to meet UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer and Scotland's First Minister. But locals are bracing for mass protests and police are mounting for one of the country's biggest security operations since Queen Elizabeth II's funeral. While some Scottish officials welcome Trump, the investment that he brings, polls show that most Scots view him unfavourably and many are preparing to make their voices heard.
I don't think many Scottish people would feel he's welcome. I think it's an embarrassment that he is coming here at all, personally.
People have their own opinions and I like to not offend people, so I would say he's welcome to come. Talking is always good. To divide and keep people separate from one another without discussing tends to create more problems than conversation.
I don't care. Doesn't interest me at all.
I don't think so. No, I'm pretty sure we've all heard about him, and no, definitely not. Obama, yes, yeah.
He's investing in Scotland, so yeah, why not? We don't, what he does over in his island, fine. When he comes to our island, it's fine with me.
I'm joined by political journalist Katrina Stewart, who's in Glasgow. Katrina, thanks for joining us on W News. So how is President Trump's visit really being received on the ground there in Scotland? Is it all golf fanfare or a bit of a political circus?
It's been really hard to find much fanfare around this visit. We are expecting mass protests over the weekend, not only at his golf course in Aberdeen, but also his golf course in Turnberry. And in our major cities as well, the police are preparing for protests in Edinburgh and in Glasgow. Trump has always faced protests when he's visited Scotland. In 2016 and 2014, there were some quite creative protests against him. But of course, the political backdrop has really changed over the past few years. And while there was some quite good humour to the Trump protests previously, police are concerned that the tone, the tenor of the protesting might be a little bit different this time around.
Katrina, he is meeting with Keir Starmer and John Swinney as well. Do you expect any real policy talks, or is it mostly optics around trade and diplomacy that we're likely to see?
It's an interesting visit because ostensibly, the president is on holiday. He's coming over to visit his business interests. He's coming to play a few rounds of golf. He wants to see Turnberry and he wants to see his new Aberdeenshire course. But there is politics involved, of course. He's meeting First Minister John Swinney. That will be quite an interesting meeting because during the presidential race, the First Minister came out very firmly in support of Kamala Harris. He's meeting Keir Starmer as well. He said that he and Keir Starmer have a good relationship and he's looking forward to hosting Keir Starmer. John Swinney has said that he's going to raise the situation in the Middle East. He's going to try and speak to the president about Gaza. Whether that has any diplomatic effect seems unlikely. I think most of this is optics. It's very much about sweet-talking Donald Trump, about keeping him on side, particularly with his business interests in Scotland and the value of those. I don't think there will be very much substance to this visit. It is very much about appearances.
Katrina, while he is there, he's opening a new course that's going to be named after his Scottish mother. Is that clever PR, or is it kind of awkward timing, given the protests, given what we've heard about the broader unpopularity with the Scottish public at the moment?
I think this is largely a project that is for Donald Trump himself rather than for anybody else. I'm not sure that the timing of it would make a great deal of difference. He is supposed to be opening a memorial garden to his mother, but that's actually not ready. So perhaps in a few months' time or next year, we will have to have the circus again as Donald Trump returns to open up that garden. Certainly,
70% of Scots are holding an unfavourable view, and many figures as well. We've heard Ian Murray and John Swinney, as you said, and rightly so, shifting tone. Now they're welcoming him to Scotland. Is this political pragmatism or hypocrisy that you see at play here?
I think politicians and hypocrisy quite often go hand in hand. In this case, Donald Trump is an extremely powerful figure. He has business interests here. His tariffs can have a huge effect on Scottish interests, specifically around whisky, on UK interests. Keir Starmer has worked very hard on diplomacy to try and build relationships between the UK and the US. Donald Trump is very capricious. You never know from one day to the next what his opinions are going to be. And so I think it is important for the First Minister and for Ian Murray, who is the Scottish Secretary, to try and build those relationships and keep Donald Trump on side. But certainly they have both faced allegations of hypocrisy, and this is diplomatically very difficult for John Swinney because he has been critical of Trump previously, and there are many opposition politicians in Scotland who believe that he should be giving Donald Trump the cold shoulder.
Now, Swinney says he's going to raise issues like the suffering in Gaza when he does meet Donald Trump. Do you expect them to have any real impact, or is that more of a symbolic mention?
I think it is certainly a symbolic mention, but for the SNP it does have substance. The Scottish Government, the SNP government, has taken a very firm position on Gaza. It has been supportive of ending the conflict in the Middle East, and particularly of having humanitarian aid introduced into Gaza in a meaningful way. So there isn't a hypocrisy here from John Swinney in raising this issue with Donald Trump. It is an issue that has been consistently important to the Scottish Government, and this is the ideal opportunity for John Swinney to bring that up directly with President Trump.
And lastly, before we let you go, could the Epstein controversy overshadow this trip in any way? How are Scottish leaders navigating that political minefield at the moment?
Again, John Swinney is facing criticism from opposition politicians because of the controversy around Donald Trump. The Epstein story isn't new, of course, but it has generated additional headlines in the past few weeks. The Epstein story has formed part of the protest already in Scotland. There have been signs going up near to Donald Trump's golf courses suggesting that they are twinned with Epstein Island. So that is something that is on the mind of the Scottish public. It will be something that is on the mind of John Swinney and will have to be skirted around very diplomatically.
Katrina Stewart in Glasgow, thank you so much for joining us. Now let's take a look at some of the other stories that are making the headlines today. At least 4 children have been killed and 17 injured in West India after the roof of a school building collapsed on Friday. A police officer says the school building was old and the roof may have fallen in as a result of heavy rainfall in the region. Local media reported that 32 students had been pulled out safely, but rescue operations are still ongoing. Hong Kong has issued bounties for information leading to the arrest of 19 overseas activists, accusing them of national security offences. Police have accused the group of attempting to overthrow the government. As of July the 1st, Hong Kong authorities had arrested over 300 people for alleged national security crimes, with 165 convicted. The Kremlin said that a meeting between Russian President Vladimir Putin and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky could only happen as a final step to seal a peace deal. This comes after Zelensky said negotiators from Moscow and Kiev had discussed the pair's meeting in Istanbul last week. US President Donald Trump has threatened new sanctions on Russia and buyers of its exports unless an agreement is reached by early September at the latest. Thousands of doctors in England's state-funded health system, the NHS, are on a 5-day strike over pay. The Doctors' Union, the British Medical Association, is calling for a pay rise of just over 29%. However, the government has offered 5.4%. Strikes by resident doctors last June led to over 61,000 inpatient and outpatient appointments being rescheduled. Military clashes between Thailand and Cambodia have entered a second day, leaving at least 20 people dead. Reports say that 130,000 people have now been evacuated in Thailand, and over 300,000 shelters are being readied to ensure the safety of civilians. Thailand's acting Prime Minister is warning that the confrontation could potentially develop into a full-blown war. Patrick Falk has this report.
Well, the words of Thailand's acting Prime Minister Phumtham Wechayachai says it all, really, about the severity of the situation. Speaking to reporters today, he said the situation is escalating and that civilian lives are being endangered. I think it's important also to emphasize that he made the point that this is still considered an armed clash with heavy weaponry, but it could turn into something much bigger, in his own words, potentially a war, and that Thailand is committed to defending its territory and sovereignty. Now, following Thursday's violence, the Thai army said today Cambodian forces conducted sustained bombardments and that it responded appropriately. There was also shelling overnight, and Cambodian media is reporting that it has claimed control of 2 disputed temples. Thailand has rejected mediation efforts from third countries to end the crisis. It's insisting that Phnom Penh cease attacks and resolve matters bilaterally. Here's Thailand's Foreign Minister Nikorndej Balankura.
It's premature for me to say how long the conflict would end. You know, Thailand wants the conflict to end as soon as possible. That's, you know, the wish of the Thai government, the Thai people. I wouldn't be able to foresee the timing. It's very much up to the Cambodian side, I would say, at this point.
Meanwhile, the fighting has drawn condemnation from leaders around the world. The United States is urging an immediate ceasefire and for civilians to be protected and for a peaceful resolution to the situation as well. The dispute, if you remember, was triggered by the killing of a Cambodian soldier at an undemarcated area in May, but it spiraled into a political crisis and led to the suspension of Thailand's Prime Minister Paetongtarn Shinawatra. That was following a leaked phone call in which she was accused of undermining Thailand's military. A prolonged conflict could further complicate matters for Thailand's leader.
It was supposed to be the tour of the Federal Reserve building to view the renovations after recent scrutiny by President Trump on the cost of construction. But what started as a tour of bricks and mortar quickly turned into a correction on facts and figures and led to quite a remarkable and some might say awkward moment. Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell calmly correcting the president's claim that the price tag that the feds had on the makeover had ballooned to $3.1 billion, a figure that was, as our correspondent Sarah Firth now reports, very publicly disputed. Have a listen.
So we're taking a look, and it looks like it's about 3.1 billion. It went up a little bit, or a lot. So the 2.7 is now 3.1.
I'm not aware of that.
Yeah, it just came out.
It was the head shake that spoke 1,000 words before Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell publicly fact-checked the president of his overestimation of construction costs.
Yeah, I haven't heard that from anybody at the Fed.
Yeah, it just came out. I don't know who does that.
You're including the Martin renovation. You just added
our entire capital.
Yeah, you just added in a third building. Is what that is. That's a third building.
Well, no, but it's a building that's being built.
No, it was built 5 years ago. We finished Martin 5 years ago.
It's part of the overall work.
But it's not new.
The president was touring the renovations of the Fed's headquarters when the rare public rebuke came. The cost of construction overruns, a recent source of controversy in Washington, D.C. And the awkward moments kept on coming.
As a real estate developer, what would you do with a project manager who would be over budget?
Generally speaking, what would I do? I'd fire him.
It comes on the back of more serious threats and criticism of the Federal Reserve Chair, with President Trump recently calling Powell a numbskull for not slashing interest rates, which he sees as a block to bringing down inflation. But under the Federal Reserve Act, the chair has legal protections and can't be dismissed for policy disagreement. It places Powell potentially beyond removal unless clear misconduct is proven, which is why questions over the budget overrun for this construction has suddenly carried so much weight. Back in his element, though, touring the prime Fed real estate, President Trump seemed in better spirits after the meeting. When asked directly why he didn't just fire Powell, he had this to say.
To do that is a big move, and I just don't think it's necessary. And I believe that he's going to do the right thing. I believe that the chairman is going to do the right thing. I mean, it may be a little too late, as the expression goes, but I believe he's going to do the right thing. The fact is, it's so big what's taking place in America.
The Fed is set to hold a rate-setting meeting next week and is expected to leave the interest rate in the same range, despite the intense pressure from the president to lower it.
Are there things the chairman can say to you today that would make you back off some of the earlier criticism?
Well, I'd love him to lower interest rates. Other than that, what can I tell you? So I met with the contract.
Despite the earlier moment of awkwardness, the heat, it seems, is off, at least for now. But that reprieve may be temporary. If the rate-setting meeting next week doesn't go the president's way, Jerome Powell may once again have cause to frown. Sarah Firth, Al Arabiya News, Washington, D.C.
France says it will officially recognise a Palestinian state at the United Nations in September, a move that is drawing sharp criticism from Israel and the United States. The French Foreign Minister defended the decision, saying it supports peace, not terror. That's even as Hamas welcomed the announcement. Britain, meanwhile, says recognition should come eventually, but that the focus right now must be on ending the suffering in Gaza. For more on this, we are going to be joined by our correspondent who is in Paris, that is Ross Cullen. Ross, France is the most powerful European country to announce plans to recognise a Palestinian state. What's driving the move? Why is this happening now?
Yeah, that's right. Earlier in the year, Emmanuel Macron hinted that that might be something he'd be minded to do, recognise Palestinian statehood, and that was set to take place at a conference jointly hosted by Saudi Arabia and France earlier in the year. The conference got postponed, and so did the idea of recognising Palestinian statehood until now. Emmanuel Macron has decided that it is time. There is no alternative, he said. We have to pursue peace. We have to recognise a Palestinian state, and he'll do so at the United Nations General Assembly. That's the forum where he will make that solemn announcement, in his words, in September. It's a long-standing policy of the French presidency to maintain that they support a two-state solution, so a state of Israel and a state of Palestine coexisting side by side. And now we are seeing Emmanuel Macron taking that next step, that symbolic move to recognise Palestinian statehood.
Ross, swift backlash from Israel and the United States, accusations that this is actually rewarding terror. How is the French government actually defending its position here?
Yeah, that's right. Israel and the United States have been furious on Friday. Marco Rubio, the US Secretary of State, saying it was reckless, saying it was imprudent. The Israeli ambassador here in France saying that Emmanuel Macron had committed an historic error in announcing that he would be supporting the formal recognition of the state of Palestine by France later in the year. The French government has been speaking this afternoon to the British and the German governments. The E3, UK, France and Germany, the leaders all coming together on a telephone call this afternoon. The statement has just come out. They have said that the time has come to end the war in Gaza. We urge all parties to bring an end to the conflict by reaching an immediate ceasefire. We are committed to working together with our international partners. We need a specific and credible plan for the next phase in Gaza.
Ross, Hamas have welcomed the move. France's foreign ministry have said, well, this recognition is going directly against Hamas. Actually, what it does is backs peace. How has it been interpreted in Paris, especially given the timing of this announcement?
Yes, so Jean-Noël Barrot, the French foreign minister, said that Hamas is a terrorist organisation that has never been interested in a two-state solution. In France, we have chosen the path of peace. We've not chosen the path of war. Emmanuel Macron's decision was welcomed by those on the left in the French parliament. The hard left France Unbowed party said that they welcomed the move, although they said it had come about as a result of their popular mobilisation. On the right in the French parliament, the National Rally, the hard right party, of whom Marine Le Pen is perhaps the most well-known figurehead, she said that this was a decision taken by Emmanuel Macron for personal political motives, and her party leader Jordan Bardella said that the move by Emmanuel Macron lent Hamas institutional legitimacy.
Ross, given the dire situation in Gaza right now, mass starvation, medical collapse, does the French government believe that this recognition is going to have a real impact on the ground, or is it being viewed mostly as symbolic?
Well, they know it is symbolic. They know that they can add their name into the list of more than 140 countries that have recognised Palestinian statehood. It's also symbolic because it is the first country from the G7 to do so. It is also symbolic because it's one of the two key motors in the European Union, along with Germany, that's decided to do so. A member of the Security Council and nuclear power as well. But all of that means that it is actually symbolic that France can do this. It does. We do see a lot of Labour MPs in the United Kingdom now calling for their Prime Minister, Keir Starmer, to join Emmanuel Macron in recognising Palestinian statehood. So we are seeing it's more of a symbolic move. They do not believe, the French government, that announcing that they're going to recognise Palestinian statehood would have an immediate impact on the ground. And in fact, the US President says that it is of no importance at all that France has announced this.
Ross Cullen in Paris, thank you so much. Let's continue this conversation. Dr. Ad Yaghi is the director of Palestinian Medical Society, who is joining us live from the Gaza Strip. First of all, Ad, thank you so much for joining us. Given the ongoing bombardment that we're seeing, the blockade, how would you describe the current state of Gaza's health system? Are there still any actual functioning hospitals in any meaningful way on the ground there?
Good evening. First of all, actually, I haven't enough words to describe the situation, especially the health situation in Gaza. Catastrophic, it is not enough. This word, it is not reflect the real situation in Gaza. The health sector in Gaza is collapsed now, unable to meet with the high number of the casualties and fatalities in Gaza. You can imagine how the weak and the fragile health system in Gaza, which has been suffering for a long time, for a blockade for more than 17 years, was able to recover and to receive more than, now we are speaking about more than 60,000 martyrs and more than 143,000 wounded since October 2023. The Israeli war on Gaza caused serious loss and damage to health personnel and health facilities, where 120 health facilities, including all the hospitals, all 36 hospitals in Gaza Strip were damaged, and 180 ambulances were partially or completed damaged. Less than 30% of Gaza hospitals is still functioning, but they are functioning partially. And the remaining of the hospitals and the primary healthcare centers, they are of the surface due to direct damage or indirect Israeli attack, or due to the shortage of medicine and supplies. Now, Gaza hospitals suffering 48% of the medicine, essentially drugs, out of stock, and more than 64% of the medical supplies, especially which used in the surgical, during the operation and surgical theater, they are in zero stock. shortage also of fuel. Also, it is one of the challenges. All of you that you are known now, the Gaza hospitals depend on the electric generators due to the continuous cut of the electricity in Gaza Strip. And the fuel, it is Israeli army don't allow the international organization to enter the fuel to Gaza Strip. Also, the security and the safety for the health staff and the health personnel, it is still one of the challenges for us. According to the international law, the health teams should be protected. But of course, the Israeli army, they don't respect any of the laws in international laws. The Israeli occupation targeted and they killed more than 1,586 health personnel, and they arrested more than 360 from the health personnel. Hospitals now have lost their ability and capacity to receive more patients, and the medical teams, they are exhausted. They are now treating the wounded people with very limited resources. Can you imagine?
Ed,
now we are in the 21st century, and our doctors, our surgeons, they amputated the injured people, the injured limb, without anesthesia or even without any painkiller. It is happening now in Gaza Strip in the hospitals, and the international community is still they don't take any step to stop this genocide, what's happening in Gaza.
Ed, I want to get your thoughts on one thing, because we will run out of time otherwise. We are hearing, you've mentioned a lot about the surgical supplies, 30% of the hospitals are what's currently functioning. But we've heard that therapeutic food, which is for malnourished children who may be in the care of medical services in Gaza, that too is running out. You're witnessing this starvation firsthand. What does it mean for these infants and young children in particular who are on the brink of starvation?
It is one of the stories which we should to inform you and inform all the international community. Now, not only the children, now the people, they are dying. They are dying due to the starvation, due to the malnutrition. The majority of the people in Gaza now, they don't take food for a few days. A few days ago, World Food Program stated that 1/3 of the Gaza population, they have been forced to go without food for several days. You can imagine when you are taking only one time your food only for 2 or 3 days. You can imagine when you are a father of a big family with 6 children, you haven't only one piece of bread for your children for 2 days. It is the real story, the real life of Gaza, because the Israeli army, they prevent to allow everything to enter to Gaza. From the beginning of March this year, they totally closed all the crossing, and at the end of May, they are allowing only a few trucks with some foods to enter to Gaza. You can imagine, before October 2023, Gaza depend on at least between 500 to 600 trucks full with everything, food, medical supplies, and others. Now, for the last only 2 months, Israeli army allowed between 30 to 40 trucks daily to enter to Gaza. And of course, it will be not enough. It will be not enough for the people.
Yeah, as we're hearing as well from the WHO are saying that 600 is what's needed, 50 is the average that's getting through per day, which we know from the official figures. Ed, before I leave you go, if no ceasefires reach soon, in your estimation, how long can Gaza's remaining medical infrastructure actually hold before there's a full collapse of the medical system and care there?
It is too difficult to speak about that. Of course, without stop this genocide, without reaching the ceasefire in Gaza, and without even opening all the crossing to Gaza and allowing all the humanitarian aid, food, medical supplies, and everything to enter to Gaza without any limitation in number of trucks or the quantity and the quality, what it is allowing to enter. Without these steps, of course, the people in Gaza will be dying. Now the people in Gaza, or Israeli army, they are now following the system that they are slowly killing the Palestinians in Gaza.
Dr. Ed Yagi, thank you so much for joining us from Gaza. Thank you. Hackers have exploited a serious flaw in Microsoft's SharePoint software to launch a wave of cyber attacks. US federal agencies and hundreds of organizations worldwide were reportedly affected. The breach may have exposed connected services like the OneDrive and Teams. Microsoft is still assessing the full impact while racing to secure older systems. For more on this story, I'm joined from Kuwait by cybersecurity expert Roland Abi-Najam. Roland, this looks serious, but how serious is it actually, this latest zero-day vulnerability in Microsoft SharePoint? Is it a major breach?
Well, hello, John. How are you? First, yes, it is very serious. It is one of the most critical cyber attacks that happened lately after what happened in 2020. Let's describe why it is very, very critical. First, this type of zero-day attack where the hackers, they found a bug, a security hole in Microsoft SharePoint, and they were able to hack all the systems. So because of this, let's say, bug, and by the way, here we are talking about SharePoint, what we call on-premise, which means the servers are locally hosted in the entities where they are hosting the Microsoft SharePoint on their servers. It's not over the cloud. So because of this bug, they were able to install files and shells where they keep for them backdoors. So even if you fix this problem and fix this security bug, the hackers might still have access to all the servers or the system or the infrastructure, where this would be very critical, because even when Microsoft, let's say, publish the update and patching for this security hole, but still at the same time, hackers might still have access to the servers and to the infrastructures.
Roland, Microsoft say that dozens of systems have been compromised here. Now, from your experience and expertise, how quickly could a vulnerability like this spread across the entire global network?
Actually, this is the key issue. When you find a problem, because here we are talking about what we call supply chain attack, which means the hackers, they are not attacking one entity or let's say one server. They are attacking a security bug in Microsoft. So when they will find this bug, all systems and infrastructure and network that they are hosting this SharePoint, they will be affected. So you can easily scan over the network. And here it's very problem to address one key point. Lots of people, they will say, if I'm hosting everything on premise, on my own data centers, I'm more secure than over cloud, which is totally wrong, because if you are hosting everything on premise, but still you are connected to the internet, you have the same risk. And when we talk about, let's say, Microsoft Cloud, so Microsoft, they are responsible for all the headache of cybersecurity and so on. But when you are hosting everything locally, so all the hack and all the headache of having all the security, it's on your responsibility. So this is a big issue. So because lots of people, they are hosting old versions, even from SharePoint 2016 and 2019. So this will make them more vulnerable and they are exposed. So once you will find this bug, any person or company or industry that are using those SharePoint, they will be exposed.
And let's speak about some of the companies who suffered from this potential exploitation. The US National Nuclear Security Administration is reportedly affected by this. What kind of a risk does such a breach actually pose? So even if no classified information was stolen, what's at risk here?
Okay, when we are talking about US nuclear, we are talking about entities, of course, they are not putting any critical data or any critical infrastructure or any data that are valuable on servers that are connected to the internet. This is for sure. Here we are talking about data that should be stored, and of course they are storing all data in a certain servers that they are not connected to the internet, and they have certain, let's say, servers that they use the internet, they use share files for certain connectivity and for certain use. But in all cases, when we are talking about any entity, whether governmental entity or non-governmental entity, because basically we're talking about more than 400 companies or governmental entities, they were affected by this attack. So at the end of the day, any company, whether nuclear, was the Ministry of Defense or Ministry of Interior or whatever entity, governmental or non-governmental, they will have to use any system from the market. They need companies like Microsoft, they need companies like CrowdStrike, FireEye, Oracle, and so on. So they are using public and very well-known companies to be used. And whenever we are talking about Microsoft and any company, any system that is developed by people, they will always have bugs and errors and problems. And hackers nowadays, especially with all new AI tools, they are ahead of this. So no matter what you will do, if you are a nuclear entity or not, you will be affected sooner or later by a cyber attack. There is nothing called 100% secure. So in this case, I guess the damage there is very limited, but it means that we have to ring the bell that there is a big alert for a nuclear entity in USA.
Roland, talk us through the difference between cyber espionage and ransomware, especially in a case like this. Hackers shifting from spying to locking systems and why they would do that in the first place.
Actually, this is a very important question because yesterday I had an interview on Arabiya, Arabic, and we were discussing what they are doing in England now because they are forcing all entities whenever they are under ransomware attack not to pay the ransomware, and at the same time they have to announce and declare to the governmental entities that we were under attack. Why everybody is going now for ransomware? I'm talking about hackers, because if I will hack you now and I will encrypt all your systems, all your servers, all your data, so all the system will not be functional anymore in your company or governmental entity or maybe hospitals, for example. So this is a very big issue. So that's why entities like this, and one time it happened to the US pipelines. They asked for a ransom of $5 million and they had to pay it because all the US pipelines were down and there was a big problem in the USA. Sometimes hospitals, they are forced to pay this ransomware. So hackers, they count on the fact that lots of companies and the governmental entities and hospitals, they cannot afford to be down. They cannot afford to have all their data encrypted. So that's why they go for ransomware attack to make more money. But what they are doing now in England, when they are saying that you are not allowed to pay the ransom and you are forced to tell the governmental entities, in this way, yes, they are putting kind of restrictions on not to give all the hackers the fancy of getting paid for everything. But at the same time, let's talk about hospital. What if in a hospital, all their servers and equipment and computers are down? And people might die in this hospital, so they must pay. So this is a very critical issue, and ransomware attacks now are one of the worst attacks worldwide.
And concerning attacks as well. But Roland Abi Najim in Kuwait, thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much.
Let's take a look at the top business story of the day. Shares of United Health Group have slipped after the healthcare giant said it's under a Department of Justice investigation. United Health's stock has fallen more than 40% so far this year. Earlier in the year, the Wall Street Journal said federal officials had launched an investigation into fraud into how the company records diagnoses, which led to extra payments. Turning to sport now. Tour de France organisers have shortened the stage of the competition to avoid diseased cows. Cattle near the Col de Sassis have experienced a contagious outbreak, restricting access to the area. The route is now nearly 35 kilometres shorter than the original course was. A final reminder of our top stories tonight. Trump heads to Scotland for golf, politics, and a high-stakes meeting with the UK's Keir Starmer amid growing scrutiny over his Epstein ties. France plans to recognise a Palestinian state sparks fierce backlash from both Israel and the United States amid Gaza's worsening humanitarian crisis. And finally, Microsoft scrambles to fix a major SharePoint flaw after hackers breach US agencies along with hundreds of global networks. That's all from us on W News. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, and as always, you can follow us on X. GNT is on the way next, and we'll be back in a couple of hours with the best of this week's W News Extra. Goodbye.